afternoon, everybody. Happy Monday. A board workshop for the Board of Trustees of the McAllen Independent School District will be held Monday, June 9th, 2025, beginning at 5:30 p.m. at the Dr. Ricardo Chapa Boardroom Administration Building of the McAllen Independent School District, 2000 North 23rd Street, McAllen, Texas, 78501. At this meeting, there may be discussion by the board on the items and subjects listed as follow. Item number 1, call the meeting to order. I have done so at 5:30 p.m. Item number 2, public comments. We have no public comments. Item number 3, 2025-26 7th Budget Workshop. Dr. Gutierrez.
Yes, thank you, President Rivera and Board of Trustees. We are already into our near final budget workshop, number 7. I think we've already been able to almost finalize everything that we've talked about over the last 6 meetings that we've had in regards to the budget. So we're going to present to you what we consider is already almost final, trying to balance everything, everybody's input throughout the process. And so we are going to be presenting the revenues by object code, the general fund revenues and appropriations by function code, appropriations by object code, and then the draft of the annual budget book that everybody has a copy of. And then we're going to talk about the health plan update. We're going to give you an update on that. Mr. Silva will be presenting on that, on the health plan and the pharmacy plan, because we are going to, we're in the process of an RFP, request for proposals for the health plan as well as for the pharmacy plan. But before that, we'll cover the budget and almost everything that we've talked about over the last several months, and this is almost the finalized plan before the board approves the budget on June the 24th. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Lorena Garcia and Mr. Joel Garcia so that they can go over the budget booklet that we have. Go ahead, Ms. Garcia.
Good afternoon, Board President, members of the board, and Dr. Gutierrez. This evening is a monumental time in our budget process as we are presenting a near final budget. This one was shaped by collaboration. There was a lot of collaboration between the different departments. It was very carefully planned, and we all shared the same purpose. On behalf of our team, I do want to express our sincere thanks for all your support. We wouldn't have been able to complete this without you. We also want to thank our campus leadership as well as our department directors that all came together, especially those that have special funds, but certainly all of the ones that planned for their different budgets. Your guidance has been essential during these steps all the way. I would also like to recognize our business services and human resources team. They played a very key role in developing this budget. We're pleased to bring forward a balanced budget for the 25-26 school year at a time when there's districts that are making very difficult decisions, such as possibly closing schools or eliminating staff. McAllen ISD was able to focus on the priorities of stability and making meaningful investments in our people. The budget includes a competitive compensation plan for all of our staff. We are proposing teachers 1 to 2 years receive $1,560. Teachers 3 to 4 years, $2,500 as per House Bill 2, and teachers 5 years and up receive $5,000. All other employees, we have modeled a 2.5% of the new midpoint. In addition to that, in the budget, we were able to update some of our stipends across key areas, and it also includes a $2 million contribution to strengthen our health plan fund. We're also working to restore the secondary teaching planning period, and thank you for that, for making that available for our secondary teachers. While this is not currently in the balanced budget, we are committed to identifying savings during the year to fund it responsibly, and if we need to do an amendment throughout the year, if we find that that's necessary, we will bring it back to you. House Bill 2, recently signed by the Governor Abbott, provided the flexibility we needed to support compensation and maintain a balanced budget. The structure of the budget is already complete. There's only a few minor things that we have to fix, such as fringes, and no major changes are expected. Oh, I'm not ready. Not yet. Thank you. We believe this is a responsible, student-centered budget that reflects our values and positions us well for the year ahead. With your continued support, we would move forward. We want to respectfully share that the proposal does reflect months of input and analysis and collaboration. At this stage, we are focused on finalizing and implementing the budget as presented, and we'll bring it back for your final approval on June 24th. So thank you again for your trust and your continued partnership as we work together to support our staff, our students, and our community. The first slide we will talk about is the proposed budget under House Bill 2. These scenarios were run using a new template that has been released with some updates to House Bill 2. We do anticipate that the template may undergo some further changes as it is very early in the process and the interpretation stage of House Bill 2. However, this is the latest template that we were able to obtain. In addition to that, we did do some comparisons with Mo Casey's projections, and we're very confident that we have the latest and greatest information to offer you at this time. In the previous budget workshop number 6, if you recall, the numbers that we brought forward were the current law numbers, and these are the new, including the House Bill 2 updates. It does not include the TRS on behalf amount. Those amounts are added once we receive the go-ahead on the compensation plan, and that is an entry that increases the state revenues as well as the expenditures by an equal amount, but it will cancel itself out. On this slide, you can see the general debt service and capital projects fund, and they are categorized by the revenue code. We have our local revenues, which is 33.88% at 89.7 million. And then our state revenues account for 56.03% at 148 million. And our federal revenues, 10% at 26 million. And this is primarily our food service program. In terms of fund balance contributions, we do have a little bit of money that is left over in the 620, Fund 620, which is the maintenance tax note from 2020. We have 1.5 million. That has been earmarked for a project that is currently in progress, which is the silent panic alarm technology. And that will probably be finalized by next year. The grand total in revenues is 266,587,730. This is another way of looking at the same budget. It is a general fund, revenues and appropriations. As you can see, the first column identifies the fund that these revenues will be appropriated to. And then it has the revenue and appropriations. So as you can see, it's balanced. With the exception of general fund, we do indicate a surplus of 439,690. Since we are still working on the budget, we will be using that surplus to increase the stipends that we had identified. That money is already earmarked for that. However, because of at the time of press, we were not able to include that in our staff planning database. We have not completely modeled that. When we bring that forward, we anticipate that surplus will be absorbed by the stipend increases.
Will then there will require fund balance contribution after the stipends?
No, we don't anticipate that, not with the stipends. The next slide shows the appropriations by function code. It's the general debt service and the capital projects funds. This is by function, and as you can see, instruction is the largest investment that the district has at 130 million. We do have our debt service fund, which is 13.9 million. That includes the defeasance as well as our bond payment. And then again, you see the capital projects fund outlined there. As I explained, that is for the SPAT project. The next slide shows the appropriations by object code. This is a good one because it shows us how much we're spending on payroll. We are at 80.84. Our target is to stay below 80%. So that is something that we will be working towards this coming year. Continue to reduce positions by attrition. We reduced quite a few vacancies. Initially, there was about 52 vacancies throughout the year that we carried that were not filled, that we were able to close through attrition. And then through the process of budget planning, we were able to close another 30 vacancies as well. The other codes are for professional and contracted service, which is about 5% of the total, and supplies and materials, 9%. Other operating costs, these are fees and so forth, 2.4%. Debt service, which is primarily for our leases and our maintenance tax note. And then, of course, our capital outlay, which in the capital outlay, we do have some Fund 101, which is Child Nutrition Program, purchase of capital expenditures for a refrigerated truck and some kitchen equipment. So that's what you see, those 525,000 there. And then, of course, our debt service fund and our capital projects funds. And we are bringing this chart forward to you so that you can see the differences between the current law template and the House Bill 2 template. As you can see, there was a significant amount of changes in several of the funds where there was primarily a lot of increases. The decreases you see, the first decrease in dyslexia, it's just a factor of the way the calculations are, not necessarily House Bill 2. But we did see a 242,000 increase in our early education allotment. School safety allotment was another one that was addressed by House Bill 2. We saw an increase of 733,000. Career and technical education, and this is for, they were able to include a JROTC as a CTE eligible course for funding. We also have an increase in special education, which is the most significant one at 1.1 million, which they are going to now funded based on intensity of services versus on ADA. And there's also some money in the second year of the biennium for special ed evaluations. The one that you see that is a negative 675,000 is state compensatory education. The reason for that is because House Bill 2 removed the 55% cap that allowed us to increase our indirect costs. So we are taking a little bit more from them to fund other district services. What the indirect cost allows us to, for the general fund, covers expenditures for all of these programs. And so the grant allows you to reimburse yourself. Formerly, there was a 55% cap, and House Bill 2 has repealed that as a way to give districts a little bit more flexibility with that funding, since they were not able to give such a big increase in the basic allotment. In terms of compensation, we are proposing that the starting salary for teachers be $55,300, and we have come a long way because 2 years ago that was actually $52,150. So we have seen quite an improvement in that area. In addition to the starting salary, we are providing teachers 1 to 2 years experience, a 2.5% raise, which is equivalent to 1,560. That is because House Bill 2 does not fund teacher raises below 3 years experience. Teachers 3 to 4 years experience would receive a $2,500 increase, and they do qualify under House Bill 2. Teachers 5 and over would receive $5,000. Now, these are just teachers. We are still waiting for TEA to provide the guidance on how to define a teacher, what is a teacher, but for the purposes of this budget presentation, we are only including teachers, teachers that have a PIMS code of 087. So that's what's in this planning process. All other employees, we have modeled a 2.5% of the new midpoint. The midpoints have increased, so they would be receiving the benefit of that. Estimated cost for all funds is 9.9 million plus the fringe benefits for this package. One thing that we were considering, however, this is not modeled in the budget, so this would be extra if we were to go this route. We would like to do a little bit more for our hourly staff. So we were looking at a 75-cent increase across the board. That would cost us approximately $361,767. However, we would no longer be balanced at that point. That would probably have to come from fund balance. As another option, we would like to analyze what a 50-cent raise would be. About half of the pay grades are lower than 50 cents when you look at the 2.5, but there are some in the top part of the scale that 50 cents is less than the 2.5, so we would be cautious to do no less than 50 cents. So either you would get the 2.5 or 50 cents, whichever was greater. That way they would all receive that benefit. But we still have to model that in staff planning and really see if we're able to accommodate it in the budget, but more than likely there would be some kind of an increase.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say quickly, referring to the TASB study, I know that they showed that our PD and our classroom aides were low, and they recommended upping that. So
Yes.
I'm wondering if that's included in this consideration, right?
Yes, we did modify the pay grades, created a brand new pay scale for police department, and those hourly rates are included in this budget. We modeled the budget with the new hourly rates.
Okay.
Instructional aides for special education
Uh-huh.
got moved a pay grade, and that is included in there. There was a differentiation between the self-contained versus
Okay.
inclusive.
So the for special education or just across the
For
board?
special education,
Okay.
yes, because that's where we were seeing the biggest turnover in the
Okay.
special education.
So they moved up a pay grade,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
That was a recommendation, and that's included in the budget.
And then there were
Got it.
some changes to the auxiliary pay scale. We do have copies.
We feel that the 2.5%, just to say for all the hourly wage employees, some of them would get like 16 cents more per hour or 25 cents more per hour. So we felt that either go 75 cents more per hour or 50 cents, no less than 50 cents. And if it or 2.5, because some of them may make like 60 cents more if they take the 2.5. So we'll give them the better of the two. Because at 2% is very minimal. It won't even make a difference.
Right.
Like that, it will make they will see a difference in their paycheck. Last year, or this year rather, this year's budget, we gave them 75 cents, and they saw the difference. And I have Mr. Barnhart, I have Mr. Trevino, who, did they tell you anything that they noticed that those 75 cents, they could see a difference in their paychecks?
Very much, they appreciate it very much.
So we want to see if we can do 75 cents, but if not, the 50 cents or the better of the 2.5, whichever one is the greater one, we'll give them that. And they will see a difference again by doing this, which is something that, will stay more competitive with our hourly wage employees as well.
Thank you for all your work on this. I want to connect this point of this roughly 361K that is not currently reflected to a point you made earlier, which was the 400 plus K current surplus. And when you had mentioned that current surplus, you had said that you were thinking about allocating those towards stipends.
We had identified and shared with the board certain
Yeah.
stipends that were recommended for an increase. However, we were adding it as a line item towards the end. When we were making our calculations, we had not had a chance to work with HR to add it to our staff planning database, which is what calculates everybody's fringe benefits,
Yep.
base salary, stipends, updating those on that data. So that's the step we're lacking to get actually the exact figure of what that will cost us. But we anticipate utilizing a good portion of it, maybe not all of it,
Yeah.
but a good portion of that surplus will go to those increases.
Okay. I'd be interested to hear, Dr. Gutierrez, from your perspective or others, sort of the rationale or the thinking behind the surplus going to stipends versus surplus going to a pay raise for this critical function and this critical group of employees.
Well, I know that we looked at stipends from the very beginning, and we went up in almost all of them. We know that, and we talked about it in the past, that some of our stipends are still a little bit behind in comparison to surrounding districts. We are getting there, and so we need to, and some of the discussion we had at the last budget workshop was to consider and look more into the stipends, and that's what we're doing. So to see if we can continue to increase a little more than what we had anticipated we were going to put in there. So that's why we wanted to see how we could put some of this money in the stipends, that we're still behind in that area because they had not changed those stipends in years. You gave them the
Yes.
5-year study.
Yes, there was a 5-year study that
And
I
we saw
was
that they
able
were
to
not
send
moved.
you.
Yeah.
So, other than last year, the previous years, you only saw a little bit of changes. Sometimes it was changing just the number of
Yeah,
stipends that were given out versus the dollar amount. Very little improvement in the dollar amount. So we feel that it's important that we also address that. And some of the recommendations, if you recall, when we had the TASB presentation by Luz Cadena, she came in and gave us a couple of recommendations. For example, the master stipend is one that's at $2,000, and in order to remain competitive, she's recommending that we move it up to $2,500, and that's for teachers holding a master's degree.
We've looked at the stipends, and historically, they moved maybe by $100 or very little when it was supposed to. So therefore, we fell behind. So, but we are getting better with the stipends as well. And this would be another, and if we have a little bit left over, of course, we'll look at salaries and see how, but the budget is balanced. That's the beauty of this conversation that we're having. We're balanced with a lot of things that we're doing. And the fact that we didn't consolidate schools, we didn't let go of employees, and still able to increase stipends, increase salaries for everyone. It's pretty. I feel good about this budget because it's balanced, and we were able to do everything we could do, including the planning periods.
Yeah.
And so, it's good. I feel good about it.
Thank you.
With I have one question. With the extra 75 cents, it costs us $361,000. Do you believe, and Dr. Gutierrez, you mentioned that throughout the year we may be able to find additional savings. You think you will be able to make that up?
We could, because it's for us, that's a small number.
Yeah.
It's not a big number.
Yeah.
It's a small number, and it's a lot better than what the number I had last year. I can tell you that. It's just a fraction of an amount in comparison to what I've
And a
had
nice
before.
impact for our employees.
Yeah,
I'd really like to see the 70, at least
the 75.
75 cent.
I would like, yeah,
I
I would
concur
like,
with that.
I would like this to be a priority for us next time around. The hourly employees, our kitchen staff, our bus drivers, our custodians, to be a priority, yes. The budget's tight. I'm glad it's balanced. I'm glad we feel comfortable with it. But next time around, we really need to take care of those employees that come in at you know, 3, 4 in the morning, that are making sure our kids are here safe, that are feeding our kids and stuff. I really, for me, it's a priority.
And we did that this year with the
Yes.
75 cents, and so that's our goal. And we are aiming more at the 75 cents than the other option.
And we did make some significant updates to their pay scale, the auxiliary specifically. There was a lot of positions that got moved up pay grade because of the
That's
changes that we
That's
had
good.
with technology and the police department being extracted from that scale. That allowed us to make some improvements.
Thank you. Thank you for all the hard work, too. I mean, I know that I couldn't do it. I couldn't do what you do.
Well,
And
it's
moving the numbers a little here and there is
it's a
hard.
very dedicated team of people, like I said, that we have in our division, and some great leaders, Mr. Garcia, Joel Garcia, and Dr. Albert Canales leading the charge as well. So I thank them for all their dedication as well. Next, we will have Mr. Joel Garcia. He is going to review the annual budget book. It is a draft, and you do have a copy of it. We did provide a link on the board book so that the community is able to see the draft. And we will be bringing forward the final one on June 24th.
Okay,
I'll get it.
okay.
Good evening, President Rivera, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Gutierrez, and members of the audience. I'd like to briefly walk you through the draft 2025-2026 annual budget book, and everyone should have a copy of it. It is also posted online. We do want to keep in mind that this version is still in development, and we're working to complete the final draft by June 19th in time for your review and adoption at the June 24th board meeting. Tonight's version reflects the priorities of the proposed budget with additional content and formatting being finalized. I'm going to just go over the 4 main sections just at a very high level. The book is organized into 4 main sections, and I'll highlight a few points from each. The first section is the executive summary, and right now it's pages 1 through 32. This section provides a comprehensive overview of the proposed budget. It includes a budget development timeline, a summary of property values used to calculate local revenue, and key revenue sources and major expenditure categories. The second section outlines the district's structure and priorities. It includes the departmental overviews, some staffing summaries, campus-level data that ties directly to how the budget supports schools across the district. The third section is the financial section, and that's pages 102 through 117. This section details the financial framework of the budget. It includes revenue projections from local, state, and federal sources, capital outlay projects, budget summaries by fund, function, and object as were presented today. And the fourth section and final section is the information section. This is page 118 and onward. This final section provides supporting data and historical context, including the tax rate history, student enrollment trends, and student performance outcomes. As Ms. Garcia mentioned, the budget is ready, and the final version of the budget book will be presented at the June 24th board meeting. Once finalized, we also plan to submit the document for the ASBO Meritorious Budget Award, reflecting our commitment to transparency and continuous improvement. So we do appreciate your continued support throughout this process. And again, we'll have the final version ready by June 19th, ready for the June 24th board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Andy Silva. He will provide us with a health plan update.
Well, before Mr. Silva starts, any questions on the budget that anyone may have? Because we're already almost like, this is already done, I think.
Yes.
Please.
I think just that what we just mentioned was really my main concern, and everything else looks really good.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
We always get a question about counselors and where they fall in the, you know, are they part of the teaching staff? They're not, right?
They are on the administrative education scale, so that's pay scale is scheduled for a 2.5%. They are not under the definition of teachers, so under House Bill 2, they would not qualify for the 2,500 or 5,000 increase.
Is that just us, or do other districts have that issue, same issue?
It's common. as far as I know, counselors are considered administrators. They're on the administrative pay scale. However, there has been legislative sessions where they have included them in the same raise as teachers. In this case, it's bare bones. What we are seeing is just teachers.
I'm just curious, I get that question a lot, and why they've never been moved into the teacher category. And so
Yeah.
I kind of never know what the answer to that.
Is all districts follow the same TASB model with a compensation plan? So the recommendations that TASB makes is pretty much across the state. And so most of them, because TASB does their compensation plan, they have their own pay schedule. And like this year, House Bill 2 did not include them in the teacher category, did not include the nurses or the librarians. So that's why we have to work it with a 2.5%. And by the way, I'd like to say that the 2.5%, it's a little higher than what it's been in the last at least 2 or 3 years here in McAllen. I think it was 1%, 2%, 1% like that. This time, we're putting 2.5% across the board on top of everything else. So that's a big plus for all our support staff also to see that 2.5%.
Yeah.
Because 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, it was 1%. And then this year's budget, it was 2%. So for next year, it's 2.5%. So it's also another way to recognize the rest of the employees to get a little bit more than what they've had in the last couple of years.
I think we did 1% in '23 because it had been budgeted for 0 when we got elected.
Yeah,
And we scrounged up to get a little bit,
1%, yeah.
right.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
But they'll
was
see a
hard.
difference at 2.5 now. Everybody would see they will see a good, they'll see changes in their check at 2.5. And so we're glad that we were able to do that with a balanced budget as well. So all in all, it was good. I mean, we were able to meet a lot of the requests, a lot of the recommendations, and so, it's a good budget.
I know it may not be a budget item, but more of a campus issue, and I don't know if it's through the use of aides or rotation, but I know the other, all of the messages that I have gotten, and I'm sure the rest of the board has, and so much gratitude for the planning period. But of course, we still need to address the start time for elementary, and I think if we can figure that out at a non-budget impact, that would be great. But if it is going to hit the budget, we need to figure out where.
I know that Ms. Nino sent out a memo, right, with the new,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But-
so that's
Schedule.
schedule.
Right,
And it
but
was-
that's not a budgetary impact, right?
No,
No.
that's just within the minutes of the day.
Perfect.
So, and that was I think we found
A
a good balance,
Medium.
starting time and ending time with
I
all the
got
discussions.
really good feedback. Thanks, everybody, for
Yeah.
helping with that.
Ms. Nino is going to Round Rock with some principals to a conference for elementary principals, but she did a great job in putting it together and sending out that survey a couple of times. And we finally ended up finding that agreement that everybody could live with, the starting time and the ending time, so
Thank
it was
you.
good.
Yeah.
I
Thank you,
think
Ms.
I sent you an email on
Yes,
the
yeah, we saw it.
Yeah.
on the
Thank you.
results. So,
Thanks.
all right, thank you. Now we move on to the insurance part. Andy?
Not a problem. So good afternoon, Board President Rivera, trustees, Superintendent Amish Gutierrez. So I'm going to be sharing some information that was actually shared at the third budget workshop. So for the most part, this will be repeat. There have been some revisions in here, but again, most of it will be repeat just to keep you up to date on what's happening, what kinds of things we're considering for next year's health fund and benefits. So on this first slide on the left, you see the fund balance in the health insurance fund at the end of last fiscal year was $68,496. Now the goal of a self-funded plan is not necessarily to make money, is to at least break even, but there still has to be some kind of reserve to help manage, the cost month to month. So at the end of last fiscal year, barely did that break-even point. This year's projection for how the fund's going to be doing at the end of this fiscal year, I'm projecting that it'll be in the negative, about $1.4 million. We knew it was going to be a very tough year. There was no additional revenue budgeted. We didn't make any employee premium adjustments, so we're hoping the various cost containment strategies were going to help us with that, but we've also experienced some high cost claims, so none of that has helped. So it is looking like at a minimum about 1.4. There's still some possibility that it'll be something less than that, but as it stands right now, that's the projection. Now, in terms of what would be optimum for the health insurance fund, there is nothing that we're required to maintain, but we set a best practice based on 3 months worth of claim experience. So a fund this size, that would be about $6.6 million that we would hope to have on a regular basis in that fund. Obviously, we're well short of that. On the right side, looking at what the district currently budgets for the health insurance fund. So the district currently budgets $466.50 per employee per month. If we were to make no changes, no increases to the employer contributions, no benefit design changes, no increases to the employee premiums, nothing like that, the projected deficit at the end of the next fiscal year would be about $4.8 million. So that's a pretty significant deficit there. Now, as was mentioned in a prior board meeting, it's probably in your packet this time, the district has already budgeted or is planning to increase that contribution by $55 per employee per month to $521.50. So that contribution is an additional $2 million to help offset that deficit. So that helps. But then we need to find, how to close the gap on those other $2.8 million approximately. So one option, of course, would be to increase the cost share for the employees. I have that listed as to be determined because that's a worst case scenario. One of the things we'd like to leave to absolutely the end. I'm going to show you a scenario we modeled, but it's definitely worst case. But it's my responsibility to obviously model it as a potential cost sharing contribution. So we're going to focus on some cost containment and some other cost sharing strategies, which I'll share with you. And then one of the unknowns, as was mentioned, this year it is an RFP year for both our medical and our pharmacy. So what those contracts do for us for the next 3 years, really, we don't know. Hopefully it's going to make this situation better. We'll have deeper discounts, maybe lower fixed costs, but that is yet to be determined. We'll learn more once we go through all those proposals and finalize that, and I'll talk briefly about that towards the end. So here's a little history for you. This is a comparison of some local school districts and what they contribute budget-wise, the employer, into their self-funded health insurance. So it ranges from $435 per employee per month on the left side, all the way up to $750 per employee per month. So as I mentioned, we're at $466.50 there on the left, and at $521.50, that gets us closer to the average. Not quite the average. I think the average is $567, but it gets us a little closer. Now, this is as of last year, so just like we're going through our budget process and making adjustments, I expect that all these other school districts will also. So where we land exactly is yet to be determined, but we'll definitely get closer. Some more historical information. On the top part is the employer contribution over the last 15 years or so. So the 2010 to 2016, it stayed consistent at $329 per employee per month. And then there was some slight adjustments over the years, all the way to the $466.50 that we're currently at. In terms of the employee premium adjustments, there's been 3 in that same time period, the last one of which was in January of 23. So while we have had some employer adjustments in several of these years, there hasn't been as many employee adjustments. And the reason for that is because we always focus on efforts that don't impact the employee in terms of additional premiums, but rather cost containment features. So here's a look at what we currently offer to our employees, just some highlights. So we currently have 3 plans. It's the basic plan, the high plan, and the state plan. So they're all preferred provider organization plans, PPOs. In terms of the deductibles on the left there, the basic plan's $1,000 individual deductible, $3,000 family. The high plan is $500 individual deductible, $1,500 family. And the state plan has no deductible. So state plan by far the richest. In terms of coinsurance, the basic plan is a 70-30 plan, which means the district's plan pays 70% of the expenses. The employee is responsible for the 30%. Similarly, 80-20 for the high plan, and 85-15 for the state plan. And there you have some of the other comparisons. In terms of the pharmacy, it's important to note here two things. One, doesn't matter which plan you're in, it's the same three-tiered cost. It's either $7.50 for a generic drug, middle tier is $25, and the third tier is $45. So the most an employee currently pays for a 30-day supply of a prescription is $45. We don't have a specialty drug tier. Many of the school districts do, and I'll show you that here in a subsequent slide. So regardless of the type or cost of the medication, our employees will probably pay no more than $45 for those medications. But we have a scenario where we'd like to include another tier.
I just wanted to add, Mr. Silva, that for Trustee Carrion and Trustee Haddad, because they were not on the board when we had this discussion of the plans, that one of the things that we may consider, like most districts are already doing, is just to have the one plan, the 70-30, due to the high cost of healthcare. We are one of the few districts probably that has 3 plans, and of course that's costly, and that's a reflection of our deficit that is starting to show. And so as we go into this request for proposals for the healthcare and for the pharmacy, then we may have to look into, do we want to keep all 3 plans again, or do we just want to go with one? Because that's where most of the districts are already at. McAllen still has 3. Just some thought, something to think about.
Thank you, Dr. G.
Do we have the model of what the savings would be if we just went to one plan?
I think
Yes,
we have
so
historical
one of
costs.
my slides here is going to show that. I'll also talk about one of the cost containment features to shift to one plan. I have a slide on that. A few slides here, if you just bear with me. So in terms of what we currently offer in the enrollment, I wanted to show you this as we lead into what Dr. Gutierrez just mentioned about a single plan. So the current enrollment is 3,046. About a little more than half is in the basic plan, 2,200 plus, and about half, a little more than half, is on the employee-only plan. So the majority of our employees on the basic plan, employee-only, and they're currently paying $65. In the high plan, 503 people are enrolled. The majority of those are also in the employee-only plan. And then we have our state plan, which I mentioned was the richest plan, no deductible. It's also the most expensive. There's 39 currently enrolled in that plan. So a total of 3,046, including the alternate plan. The alternate plan is not a major medical plan. That's just a plan that allows us to give employees who waive their coverage some benefit, like additional life insurance. So we have about 284 employees that have opted to waive entirely our benefits. So here's where we start talking about what we're looking at and then what options we have to address it. So the projection for next year is that our plan will cost about $30 million. If we do no changes, so no changes in revenue, that'd be about $24 million. We do expect to get about $1.2 million in rebates from our prescription medication, so that helps offset some of those expenses. But that's where that $4.8 million deficit comes from. So that table on the left reflects what the amount would be if the district would budget an additional $25, $50, all the way up to $125. As I said earlier, the district's already budgeting $55, so that's an additional approximately $2 million that is going to come into the fund to help close that gap in that deficit. As I said also earlier, the average contribution is $567. We'll be at $521.50 with an additional $55. So as far as the single plans, as I was mentioned, so here are some sample public entities that have already moved in the direction of a single plan. It's something you see probably most commonly in the private sector. It's a one-plan offering. You don't see the employees have options of different plans. So here's an example of some public entities that have already gone in that direction. One of the proposals, cost containment, is to do just that here. Our current basic plan is a $1,000, as I mentioned, deductible for individual, $3,000 family. One of the proposals is for us to consider one single plan offering, which would be a modified basic plan with a $1,250 deductible for the individual and $3,750 for the family. And I'll talk about what that does in terms of cost savings in a later slide. Here's another cost containment feature on the pharmacy side. So we've had some good success on the pharmacy side containing our costs, but we're always looking for other opportunities. Here's one we found. It's actually a federal program, the 340B. It's a federal program that allows eligible providers, which those are primarily hospital pharmacies, which obviously we're not one of, but it allows hospital pharmacies to buy medications at a deeply discounted price. So there's some vendors that have already partnered with hospital pharmacies to be the middleman between groups such as ourselves to be able to leverage that program and to get drugs at a lower cost. So our third-party administrator, Araya, has found a group, Zoro RX, that's already set up to do that. They've already set up everything, contracted with the hospital pharmacy. And what it is, it'd be a mail order program. There's a select group of medications that qualify. So currently, if we look at what our current utilization is, they've identified 115 members, which is 97 employees, 18 dependents, 8 drugs in a list of 38 that are eligible. And by sourcing these medications through Zoro, through this program, potentially we could save $137,000 a year just by sourcing it through this group. So here's another one of those cost containments that would have very low disruption with potentially some good savings for us. So this is one we're definitely would recommend we consider. One of the prerequisites of this is that the member would have to have an annual telemedicine visit with that hospital-based pharmacist through Zoro RX. That's a requirement. So unlike when we go to the pharmacy and they ask if we want to consult with the pharmacist, same thing here, except they'd be required to do it once a year in order for us to keep that eligibility. So here's a different cost containment, cost sharing actually example. I mentioned specialty drugs and that currently we have 3 tiers. Here's a list of school districts that have a specialty drug tier. They vary in how they designed it. Some of them have coinsurance alone up to 50%. Some of them have coinsurance with deductibles. Some of them have coinsurance with caps. Others just have a higher copay. But regardless, what they have in common is they identified that specialty drugs is a cost driver, and they put in a specialty tier to help manage that cost. And that's one of the things that we're proposing to do here. Have a 4th tier, specialty drugs, and we're proposing a coinsurance of 20 or 30%, and I'll show you what the cost potential savings could be if we were to do that. Now, we are not targeting all specialty drugs. These are the school districts probably do. They do not discriminate. Anything specialty drugs subject to additional co-payments or deductibles. We're targeting what our current cost drivers are, and that's GLP-1 medications. That's really where our cost drivers are. We would limit it to those type of medications, but at the end of the day, it would be a considerably higher copay than $45. We're probably looking at about $300 copay. Now, odds are, at least for a large part of the year, our employees would not pay $300 for those medications. Manufacturers have assistance programs, and they get those processed at the pharmacy. Even now, at the $45 copay, they're probably not paying $45 because manufacturers will put in those discounts, and they get much, much lower costs. So not all the employees would be impacted, but still it would be the potential. So here's in terms of the employee, and as I said, would be.
And
yes,
really
yes,
quick, since you're on the GLP-1s,
Yes.
Is that like, so that applies across the board? If it's somebody that needs it because they're diabetic and they absolutely need it, or someone who's taking it just to lose weight?
No, it would be across the board, GLP-1.
And that $300 copay would apply every single prescription refill?
GLP-1s, yes. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, ma'am. So this is a rate increase scenario, as I discussed. It's, as I said, we have to model it. We actually model this every year, increases. It doesn't mean we follow through with them, but it has to be part of the discussion. This takes into an assumption that we do go to one plan. So everybody has to migrate to one plan, so all the enrollment is here at 2762. That's the current rate, you see their current per month of our basic plan. So at 15% increase, it would increase from $975 for an employee only to $74.75 to a high of $109.95 for an employee and family plan. And it would be proposed $842.95, the new rate. Collectively, all that brings in revenue of $6.4 million. Now, in terms of what the additional revenue is versus current, it's only $134,000. So as a discussion was had earlier on a different budget scenario about, it's relatively low, this is a low number. So I think we can find ways to not have to do this. And that was a direction from Dr. Gutierrez. Worst case, this is worst case. I think we can probably find savings not to have to do this. But as I said, I have to model it as an example of what it would mean to employees.
Yeah, we don't want to do this because if we give the employees a raise, but then we increase their insurance rates, then the raise evaporates there. So we just want to see how, maintain the same rate, so that way our employees can enjoy the raise and not go into insurance.
Yeah, the juice is not worth the squeeze, right?
Yeah, there you go, yes.
So here they are summarized what these strategies could be. So at the top, the first one is the employer contribution, increasing the employer contribution that has built in the $55, the $2 million in revenue. The second one there is assuming a single plan and doing a 15% increase. That's that $134 I just mentioned in the prior slide. 3 and 4 are related. So in prior years, we had already talked about discontinuing the state plan and only having 2 plans, the basic and the high. So just doing that on a standalone basis potentially could save $500,000. So that was an option we had considered in the past. We never moved on it. It's something we could do on a standalone basis this year. However, if we were to go to the single plan, that's number 4 there, discontinuing the state plan and the high plan to have one single plan, potentially that's $3.5 million impact. So that by itself would be a pretty significant number that would help us go in the right direction. Now, it would disrupt 542 members. They'd have to move to a plan. They'd have no options. They'd move to the base plan. So there'd be no other options for them. In some cases, they may be paying less because state and high plans were higher cost. Benefits, be a slightly lower benefit because co-insurances are different, deductibles are different. So there'd be potentially some disruption for those 542 that have to migrate to one plan offering.
How many members did you say were in the state, like 38?
39. And the state plan is 39.
But total from the other, with the other plan is
542, including the high and the state plan, 542.
Yeah, but if you think about it, it's a little over 3,000 that are insured.
Right.
So that's a
2,046.
small fraction in comparison to the whole. Sorry. Okay.
I have a question on the GLP-1s. Is there an option, because, you see the advertisements for, him, hers, whatever the online websites are. Is there an option to provide our, if our employees get it through there, to provide them reimbursement instead of paying the costs?
So I'm not aware that there's any program where we could potentially get it at a lower cost than what we're getting it now. With exceptions, for example, the Drugs Cost Plus, that Mark Cuban program, certain formulary drugs, those are options for us. We can source drugs through there. It wouldn't be a scenario where we would be reimbursing employees. We would just direct the employee to get their prescription filled there. I'm not familiar with any of those types of programs you just described where we could actually do that, except maybe on a direct basis, and we've not explored that. So the 5th one here is single plan and making some slight adjustments, as I mentioned, to that single plan. And what those adjustments are, it could be a $1,250 deductible, $1,500, $1,750, or $2,000. And there's what the potential cost cost savings could be by making those adjustments to that basic plan. 230,000 if it's an additional 250. If we double it to 2,000, it could be $920,000 in savings. And what that is we're basically shifting some of the costs from the plan to the employee by increasing deductibles. The next one there is the fourth tier I mentioned for specialty drugs, specifically for GLP-1 drugs at coinsurances. What I have listed there is at either a 20 or 30% coinsurance. The 30% is consistent with the basic plan. I mentioned it's a 70-30 plan. So this would be consistent with that. It's a 30% coinsurance. That potentially would save the pharmacy side $278,000 a year. Now, as I also mentioned, it's specifically for those drugs. It's not all specialty medication, which there's lots of them. It would be just those, because those are the current cost drivers. Those medications, the GLP-1, specifically the Mounjaro, is $1,000 a month. And so at $45 copay, the plan is absorbing the majority of that cost. So shifting it a little to help absorb some of that cost would help offset some of that to the tune of about $278,000.
Do we know, per Ms. Peña's comment, do we know what percentage of our employees are being prescribed it for diabetes versus weight loss?
Yeah, so, and again, this number varies, but when we drafted this illustration, it was 112. Specifically on the Mounjaro, there's a few more. Mounjaro is by far the one, GLP-1, most highly utilized, and then it's Ozempic, a little behind that.
But the question is, like, how many are taking it for diabetes? How many are taking it for?
So
You can't know?
in our plan, it has to be for diabetes.
Oh, it has to.
It has to be.
We only cover diabetes.
Well, I mean, that's the only way you could get it too, right? Like, the doctor has to prescribe it, obviously.
Well, there's some plans that allow it for example, the weight loss. Ours does not. It has to be diagnosis of diabetes.
But there's also conditions like hypercortisolism.
There's some more and more coming up, and as more and more of those comes up, then we're going to have to offer it because it's now becomes eligible under those conditions. So that's one of the reasons we're focused on GLP-1 drugs, because more and more they're adding to what it may be used to treat.
Let's get our wellness program going. Let's get people working out and feeling better and losing some weight.
We can do it at Crockett.
Hey, there you go.
That's a great idea. We could make that our wellness center.
We need to do something so that people are not having to rely, I mean, non-diabetics, or for other conditions,
Sure,
changing your diet, your habits.
We have
Just saying, not
199,000.
judging at all.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate all the sort of various scenarios, and I'm trying to put it all together. Going back to the very beginning of your presentation, Mr. Silva, the negative fund balance for 24-25, and the projected even deeper negative balance for 25-26 with no changes. What of these various cost containment strategies, it sounds like the specialty drugs are the largest driver of the deficit in the health plan. Is that an accurate conclusion for me to draw from here, or are there other factors, including the multiple plans, et cetera? Like, it's hard to isolate.
Sure. So I'd say that on the medical side, we have what we call our high-cost claimants. Those are unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
Those year to year might drive
Major accident.
heart attack. Heart attack situation,
Yep.
a stroke. Those, when they occur, they're very costly, but they're not predictable.
Sure.
And those could drive the cost in a particular year. What has been consistent the last 3, 4, 5 years is the pharmacy side,
Yep.
the specialty drugs.
Yep. Okay.
So
That's helpful. Thank you.
Trustee Regalado, did you have something to say?
No.
Trustee Regalado, did you have, yeah,
You're on mute.
we can't hear you. Okay, all right. I thought you were raising your hand, that's all.
Sorry. No, I was just messing with the screen.
Okay. So I thought she was raising
Go
her
ahead.
hand.
So, and then the last item here I have is that 340B program. As I mentioned, it's 115, at least currently. The number can fluctuate, as new scripts are written, as new employees come in and they have those scripts, as well as the medications. That list of 340B eligible medications might shift, but as it stands right now, it's 115. And if we were to source those medications through a vendor such as I mentioned earlier, potentially 137,000 savings. So here's what it would look like if we...
Before you move on.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I made the comment earlier about people getting healthy or getting in some exercise and stuff, there are some benefits that come with our plan, such as a nutritionist. And I don't know if staff knows, if they don't know. Somebody found out on their own and utilizes it. I think things you should know campaign is in order. And maybe, they should be more aware and not have to go searching for, hey, I need a nutritionist, a dietitian, is it covered? So I'm pretty sure you do it, but maybe a better campaign to let employees know some of the benefits of that sort that our plans cover.
So that is a benefit. It does come with medical necessity criteria, but that is available to employees.
Well, just as long as employees know and they can access it, because sometimes our insurance packets, like I know I get mine and it looks like this. And so if I want to know something, I have to go looking or searching or asking questions, but, just...
We can definitely add that, just like we did with our, on our plans of the clinics that we have. We'll add that as a step as well. I know we've added more partners as well, and working with Andy and other places, adding more fitness places to give a good discount to McAllen ISD employees. So that's one of our goals, to continue that for next school year as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. So this is kind of a summary of all of those scenarios, all put into one slide, the shortfall at the top, and then what the potential cost savings could be and how that impacts the overall fund. So assuming we were to implement all of these, and assuming those savings do materialize as they're projected here, at the end of next fiscal year, it could actually be a positive 1.4 million versus a negative. Again, this is including them all, and under the assumption that they all materialize.
But the 1.4 is still below the 6.6 you said is best practice?
It's still well below. We've never actually hit that goal, if I have to be honest with you.
What is our, I guess, normal balance, or would you say going balance in the
Yeah, so I would say there hasn't been a normal balance. To give you a little more of the history, one of the reasons we didn't have employer contributions every year, one of the reasons we did not have employee contributions increases every year, is because it was a reasonably healthy fund balance. And so whenever the budget scenario came up, we'd always look to see, okay, well, we can increase the budget, increase employee premiums. Oh, well, no, there's enough in the fund to help offset some of those increases. Together with some cost sharing, we can absorb it. And so the fund balance has slowly been trickling down. We'd make some adjustments that go up. I can't point to an average that I can tell you that we've sustained it, because it's slowly been coming down for years now, to the point where 2 years ago it was like, okay, we need to make some serious adjustments, but it was the worst time because it was a serious budget situation, so we had to hold the line, and that kind of brings us to where we are now.
And is that because our employee contributions haven't kept up with inflation, or are we getting more high rate claims?
Probably a combination. So in terms of the inflationary factor, as I said, we can offset some of that with cost containment a lot of the times. The International Pharmacy Program has been very successful for us, so that's helped keep our costs down and not have to make a significant increase, whether it be from employer or employee contributions. We could say that keeping it low was because we were managing it well. We did not have to absolutely make considerable increases over the years. We had that fund balance that we can count on because it was being managed. So it's a combination of things. One strategy could have been to increase it every year to keep up with inflation. That's something we could have done, but we look at that every year and make decisions every year on whether or not to adjust it. So again, this is just a summary illustration of all the things we talked about there, from the deficit all the way to those plan design changes, assuming we would implement them all, and potentially it would shift that negative to a positive. And the last couple of slides I have is this, that we're always looking at cost containment. These are not model S scenarios because they're not well developed enough, but we've received some interest from local providers that have said, hey, we want to partner with McAllen. We want to help you keep your costs down. We want to directly contract with you. And so we've opened discussions with them. We're still not to the point where we can say, yes, this is going to work, and yes, it's beneficial, and this is how it's going to be designed. But this is a list of some of the types of providers that have approached us. Imaging centers, there have been at least one. Urgent care providers, there's been two. At least one physical therapy provider. And I believe there's two primary care providers that have come to us and said, hey, what can we do together? And so we started conversations with some of those. So hopefully we'll be able to negotiate something. This is apart from whoever we select as our third-party administrator. This would be on a direct basis. Hopefully we can negotiate better discounts than what those providers can do, because we won't be worried about everybody in the network. That's what these TPAs have to deal with. They have to make sure everybody's happy. These providers, they're willing to work with us and just us, and so we don't have to worry about all these other providers. Now, if we were able to do that, we might get to a point where it's a large enough network where we say, here's the provider that our TPA, third-party administrator, brings. Here are the ones McAllen has, and you have an option, and hopefully we can steer them to the ones we have because those are lower cost. Another option for us that's also not on the current scenarios because we were waiting for this RFP. So we could always offer an HMO. That potentially is lower cost to our employees. It's different than our preferred provider organization program. It's more restrictive, but it could be lower cost. So we could potentially have two plans, one that is an HMO and one that's a PPO. HMO would be the entry-level plan, lower cost. PPO would be the buy-up plan, higher cost, higher benefits, but they're definitely different, so it'd be an education component to our employees. And the reason we didn't model it is because we asked for, in the RFP, if they already had an HMO available for them to present it to us. So that brings me to this slide, as was mentioned. This is an RFP year. So the RFPs opened about 2 weeks ago. On the medical plan side, we received 4 proposals. 2 of them were exactly what we're looking for, medical plan administration, and there was 2 that I'll call other. The 2 that are medical plan administration are from Blue Cross Blue Shield, which is the current third-party administrator, and then the other one was from United Healthcare. So both of those were third-party claims administration services. The other 2 are variations of direct care models where they either have clinics set up or telemedicine type clinics. Remains to be seen in discussions with purchasing whether we even evaluate and consider these, because they're technically not third-party administration services. They're more of a component of a benefit plan offering, but they're not third-party claims administration. Neither of these 2 groups can administer our plan. So remains to be seen how we evaluate it in the process, since they're technically others. On the pharmacy side, we received 5 proposals. Raya RX is our current, that's the incumbent. We received a pharmacy proposal from Blue Cross also, Proact RX, ServeU RX, and also one from United Healthcare. So Blue Cross and United Healthcare are in both RFPs. Now, we usually carve it out because historically we have found we have way more flexibility in dealing with vendors separately. When it comes together as a package, we don't have as much flexibility to get what we need, get what we want from the vendor. So we always look at them separately. Lastly there, in terms of the award and effective date, tentatively, optimistically, I had it set for August. It's probably too optimistic. It'll probably be September. The effective date is till January, but we try and target no later than September because October is our annual enrollment period. So I'd like to have everything finalized so we can introduce who our third-party administrator is during that enrollment period. Could we do it later? We could. The enrollment period can continue, but I'd like to do it no later than September. As far as the award, Last year and at least the last 2 years, the board has made that decision. We set up interview processes, and then the board ultimately decides who administers our plan. I think that's yet to be decided. You know, I'm sure I'll get direction soon, but that's one of the things that we need to get settled on. So
We had
can-
talked about the board to do the interviews and be part of the selection process. So it looks like, going back to the medical plan, that we just have two, Blue Cross and United Health, because the other two may not be able to do the
That's
the
correct.
volume of work that it requires.
They are not third-party administrators. They provide direct care medical services. Yeah.
So there will be no need to,
In my opinion, no. I mean, I still haven't talked to purchasing, but I think they would agree that that falls outside the scope of the RFP.
so those would be two. And then in the pharmacy, all five are
Pharmacy,
qualified.
all would be eligible.
Okay.
They're all pharmacy benefit administration.
Okay.
And that's all I had. I'll be glad to take any more questions.
That would be we have homework in late July and August to finalize this and more than likely, you're right, it'll probably be in September, because it'll take us to sometime in late July and part of August to do the interview, set up all of that, score it, and then make a recommendation for early September.
And I'll turn it over back to Mrs. Garcia for
Think
the
that's-
last slide.
Yes, the last slide, we wanted to give you an update on the legislature. As you know, of course, it already concluded. House Bill 2 was signed into law by Governor Greg Abbott on Wednesday, providing $8.5 billion in new funding. It added for teacher compensation and support staff pay, operational expenses, special education, educator prep programs, early childhood learning, and campus safety. The second set of bills that we were tracking was House Bill 19 and Senate Bill 1209. These were the ones that were proposing that the elections be strictly for the November uniform election. They have both essentially died in the process, and so that's not a consideration. Now, the board will need to determine whether or not to pursue a bond election possibly in May. So that's something to consider, and we did provide an update to our Facilities Forecast Advisory Committee, letting them know via email that we would be talking to the board about these two bills and what that means, and we would get back to them and then schedule our site visits, campus visits, as we continue the evaluation process of our facilities.
I think we'd like to have another discussion on this one to see if the board wants to go in May of 2026 rather than November. But in doing that, we need to have like a special call board meeting for MGT to come in and give us a summary of their facilities needs assessment report, because they already have it, correct? They have a draft?
They have pieces of it. They've been sending us pieces. The final report will be early August.
Okay, so we would have for them to come in and give a report to the board of the facilities needs assessment, and then at that time, continue with to have a timeline for going into May, I think, rather than November. That way we have more time to conduct more walkthroughs, provide more assessment of our facilities, and then start working on a priority list. We do have some priorities we know about, but we like to compare to the MGT's report and come up with one list. But sometime in early August, then we'll have that meeting just for that, the facilities needs assessment report, as well as then bring in a timeline for what the bond would be like for May of 2026. Okay.
That's it.
So we don't have any meetings on that scheduled anytime soon?
No, because July, we're going to go into July, and now that we have a little more time, we can, especially if Trustee Dr. Kittleman talked about perhaps board members visiting schools with us in the fall and being able to assess buildings at the same time and visiting. That would be a great opportunity for everyone to assess buildings for the board. as well as the Facilities Forecast Committee, then we'll start those those visits ourselves with them. And then with the MGT report, put a comprehensive report together by November, maybe. December, and no later than December. So that way in the spring semester, we can start more serious discussions on priorities and what the bond is gonna cover. That's all we have.
But one just clarification, did you say that you had already sent an email to other members of the committee?
Well, Dr. Gutierrez, from his office,
Got
he
it.
sent an email giving them an update of where we're at, and that we'll be reaching out soon to schedule our next meeting.
Great. Could
think
I
we
get that forwarded to?
Yeah, we send them a copy of it, right, to? 'cause
Yes,
we
it should
send-
have also gone to the board. I'll check with
I'll double
Ms.
check.
Marta.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see it,
I
but
didn't see it, so.
I didn't see it, but I got a call from some other members on the committee about it. So I know the
Okay.
members of the committee got it, but I didn't see. I
Okay.
didn't
We'll,
see
we'll forward it to you. I just sent it, was it Thursday or, it must have been Wednesday
It
or
was-
Thursday?
Friday,
Friday?
Friday
Okay.
when we were doing
So we'll-
graduations.
It's because, yeah, it's been a lot, but we'll send it to you
Okay,
all, because
yes.
I know the Facilities Forecast Committee got the
Yeah,
memo.
they got
And it
it.
was just to give them a summary that House Bill 19 did not go through, and that we could look at at May, and that we were going to be discussing it with the board, and then have the facilities report from MGT, our consultants, and so that's what, we were just keeping them informed as to what was going on.
All right. Any more questions, comments, dinner plans? No? All right, with that, we
Move
move
to
on.
adjourn.
Can I get a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Trustee
Second.
Pena,
Okay.
trustee Carrion, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, guys.
Gavel us out.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Seven.
Team, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you all.
Administration.
Yes.